Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall, for the old fan, the new fan, and the UK fan. Myself, Adam, Andrew, we are all back and we are all wishing you a very Merry Christmas. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves, whether you were with your families or not. Unfortunately, there has been this little pandemic going around that may have hindered some of you guys getting together, but I hope you all had a good time. I saw amongst all the NFL UK fan groups, all the gifts you've been given by your partners, friends, or maybe just bought yourselves for Christmas that were all NFL related. I'd like to say, a special shout out actually, firstly. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to lean over a little bit here. This was something that we were going to buy for the podcast to give away to people. Unfortunately, though, I won, and it was my team. So I'd like to thank Lockdown Lids UK for the Big Ben Pittsburgh Steelers mini helmet. You can't really see the signature just there. It's just on the top. I know it's a little... There you go. You can sort of see it from that angle there. But a massive thanks to Lockdown Lids UK. If you don't know who they are, go check them out. They basically do giveaways, really, for tickets and stuff like that. So you buy with them. I didn't put it down very gracefully there, as you probably could hear. But yeah, they do stuff like that, giveaways for tickets. And it's something that me, Adam, and Andrew do a lot. We do it for the podcast to give stuff away over here. But we also, fortunately, have won stuff that is in favour of our teams, for our friends' teams. And they're really great fun. The guys over there do a really great job. Go live every Thursday, I do believe. So go and check them out. Also, me and Andrew would definitely like to thank Adam for the gifts that we got this Christmas, which is a lovely signed Cam Hayward Steelers jersey that I got off of Adam. So again, thank you very much, my friend.
That's quite all right.
I don't know if Andrew's got his to hand, but Andrew got a nice Sterling Shepherd.
I mean, it's in the other room. I can grab it.
No, you don't have to grab it. I only had it ready just because it was here. So you got a lovely Sterling Shepherd. Obviously, Adam can hold up his gift if he likes.
Yeah.
Well held up.
There we go. The gift he got from us. Bad podcasting, friends. Bad podcasting buddies, me and Andrew have been, but there will be a gift coming Adam's way.
Just spending time with them is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, you know.
Exactly. Much like the NFL is, much like the NFL has been, it has been so much fun over the festive period. Games on Christmas Day, games on it feels like there's a game every other day at the minute. It seems the schedule seems to be getting stretched out in this Christmas period. So much has happened. Teams are winning. Teams are looking now at sealing their place into the playoffs. You've got teams winning their divisions, have seen the division wins in the likes of Green Bay Packers. I believe another team has now won their division. I do believe. Has there been another team, or was it coincidental that they
Chiefs
would?
have clinched.
Chiefs,
yeah.
Chiefs have clinched that, and I believe the Cowboys, if they had like certain scores, would have clinched it as well, but it didn't happen. I think that's going to happen probably next weekend. But they're more than likely going to win the division, I suppose. But lots of things happen in the NFL. What an active time to be alive! What a great time in the NFL. But for all your betting needs, because obviously we all love to bet on NFL, make sure you watch Adam's betting videos that are online, and go to also Star Sports Bet. They are on our Twitter page. They are affiliate Star Sports Betting for all your NFL betting needs this year. They've got everything on there. Go check them out. Make sure when you sign up with them, you let them know that we sent you over there. Just put the F tag in the notes just to let them know that we sent you there. So Star Sports Betting, go check them out. But we are back after the Christmas period. We are bellies full. Wine has been drunk. We've probably drank too much, probably yet too much. We're probably going to do the same thing up until after New Year, I suppose, and then we'll get the kick in. We'll kick in the health kick, and we'll all go on like synchronized runs together, listening to the podcast, and do sort of some sort of athletic thing, I suppose, to try and get trim and back in shape when we go towards the road to the Super Bowl. But we're going to look at, unfortunately, today it feels sort of negative, because we're going to look at the negative in a way, because we're looking at the head coaches today that maybe won't be at their team next year. The coaches that we feel haven't done enough to push their team forward, to drive their team onto the next level. There is a lot of teams out there that have not done great this year. There's a lot of teams that have done really well this year. There's a lot of teams that are nearly reaching 500. Maybe they're the coaches that should go. But that's what we're discussing today. We're going to talk about the coaches that we feel may be getting the axe by the time it comes around to Black Monday, as they call it, where a lot of coaches get fired, a lot of players get dropped, some players retire and everything like that, when it sort of culminates the end of the regular season into the playoffs. So without further ado, let's talk about some coaches that will be jobless when it comes to the off-season, unfortunately for them. Adam, I feel like we're going to kick off with you tonight. You said you had a lot of coaches in mind. You can only pick one. Bring it to the table for us, my man.
I have many that deserve to be fired. So there's no one more than me that likes to have a rant about Matt Nagy, but I did last time, so I will avoid it this time. I'm going to go for Vic Fangio. I think it's time. He's been the head coach there since 2019, so this is his third season. His record is 19 and 28, not great. First season 7-9, second season 5-11, and then this season 7-8 so far. It's not been brilliant. There's not really been much of an improvement during his time there. And when you actually look at the team and you look at the players that are there, they are a pretty strong team. They have the number 8th ranked defense in the whole of the league so far this season. And they've got an offense that includes Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. You've now got Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon as running backs, and Noah Fant is one of the, a tight end that lots of people like as well. That's a pretty strong offense. The offensive line isn't bad because the run game is pretty good. And as I said, the defense is pretty good. Yeah, they're 7-8 and currently bottom of their division. And that's a division that includes the Raiders. I mean, that's how that's going. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of his ideas are a little bit run heavy. He's got these good wide receivers that he maybe doesn't use that much. We've all come out and said that Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock are maybe not the greatest tight ends, quarterbacks in the NFL.
They're definitely not great tight ends.
No. But it's one of them things where Teddy Bridgewater is quite a serviceable quarterback. You can win games with him, and I feel like they should be doing better. They should be showing signs of improvement, and they're not under this guy. And I get the feeling that maybe what they need is they need a new head coach, a young head coach to bring a bit of life into it, and also a new quarterback in tandem with that happening.
Do you think if is it the lack of identity that they've been having? Because like you said, they do feel like they're run focused, and yet they've not really picked an out running back. Melvin Gordon is still there. Javonte Williams has looked very serviceable and very good. And I think if Melvin Gordon's contract's coming up, which I believe it might be, they are going to move on to Javonte Williams because they've definitely got a weapon there. But like you said, they've got great wide receivers, they've got a serviceable quarterback, they have a decent run game, and yet nothing quite. They've not got that sort of swagger like other teams with that sort of artillery have. You could argue all you like about how good Dak is in Dallas, and people have said this year, well, he's good, but the run game is their strongest thing. But he's got the same sort of weaponry that Teddy Bridgewater has. Now, I do believe Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater, don't get me wrong, and Teddy has been a little bit in and out with injury. But the fact that they've got it together and they've been able to sort of have that boom factor and that wow factor on the field, and yet Denver has this wow factor in their lineup, and yet it's just not happening for them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, as I said, I think a lot of this, maybe to a certain degree, you need that wow factor from your quarterback, and they don't have that yet. So, I mean, there's definitely a few of them that are going to be available and around that they can go and get. I just feel that with that being the case, it feels like you need to bring in that quarterback to maybe make the difference. I think you're going to want a new head coach there as well. I think you just start off with a whole new team and almost like get the head coach in first, and then they are happy with the quarterback that they go for. It feels like Denver are actually I know they're in a difficult division with Kansas City there, but they're in this position where they're actually not that far away from being able to be ahead of the Raiders and be ahead of the Chargers and be in a wild card spot and be able to be a playoff team that people might feel a little bit don't really want to play them kind of thing, especially if they got the home game and stuff like that. You kind of feel like that they have that potential. I don't know if Vic Fangio is the guy to lead them to that, though, because I don't really see much improvement with him with what they've got. So I don't really see why, because you'd end up in a situation where basically, okay, we go and get this great quarterback, but then he'd be the one who's kind of doing all the work and sort of pulling Vic Fangio along. It doesn't feel, it feels like a new start is needed.
Do you think we'd be having this conversation if they had addressed the quarterback issue in the offseason over Teddy Bridgewater? You know, they're only 7-8, so only 2 games back off of what like the Patriots and the Bills and the Bengals are. So if they'd had a more elite quarterback in that team, would we be saying sack Vic Fangio, or would we be saying Broncos are doing better than we thought?
You probably wouldn't be having it.
Could I add on to that the fact that they also had the 9th pick in the draft with Mac Jones still on the board, and the fact that we joked about, I know we joke about it a lot, but the Aaron Rodgers rumors in the offseason were very real. They were very much a big thing of Denver any day could be pulling some strings here to get Aaron Rodgers over, because they were the front team. So to Andrew's point, is it that quarterback?
Yeah, I think that the lack of a quarterback is a massive problem. You know, it really is. And I don't think necessarily going for Mac Jones would have been the greatest of moves. But I feel that not going all out for a quarterback, to a certain degree, you feel like, because the GM there, I can't remember, he's new, isn't he? The GM, he's only been there for a year, and you do sort of wonder whether there is an element of wanting to almost like, let's just do a season, see how we go, and then make moves. Yeah, maybe Vic Fangio hasn't had the greatest deal in this. But the problem is that there's no progression. That's the thing. And it just kind of feels like he needs to show that he's moving them forward. And I do feel that Bridgewater, although not an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or anything like that, is a quarterback who has, with that run game, with them players around him, has shown that he can win games. And it just kind of feels a little bit like, I think they've got players there that are young and good, and they need to get it going now. And if they don't, they're going to miss the boat. And it feels like, I don't know if Fangio is the guy to lead them to be successful.
Obviously, Vic Fangio is massively known for being a defensive minded head coach. Obviously, I said a few weeks back that all the defensive minded head coaches are currently struggling that haven't got very good offensive coordinators. So do you think that the defense side of the things at Denver has lost its way? Because arguably you could say he's doing a good job with the defense and bringing in some good pieces. They haven't looked bad losing Von Miller. Is it the offensive coordinator that needs to be addressed, and they need a big name in there rather than, is it Pat Shermer at the minute?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you could go down that route, but the fact of the matter is that he's the head coach. So I mean, it's like,
yeah, but when we look at like the Patriots and the Bills, Bill Belichick and McDermott both being defensive minded, they've got McDaniels and Daboll, which have real high, like elite offensive coordinators, and I think that's what sort of carries them through.
I think it does work in certain ways. I think you do have that. My only concern with that is, or the one thing I would say is, I don't believe that McDermott or Belichick don't have any input on the offense. They might have guys who are in charge of it, but I still feel they would have input in it and would still come out and say things about that. I don't know. Maybe Fangio does. But if he does, then it's not working, because it's the offense, or with all these players, that isn't quite doing it. The defense, you know, like I said, they're ranked 8th at the moment. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, if you can get a defense in the top half, you're doing pretty well. But it kind of feels like maybe it is the offensive coordinator that's the problem, but at the same time, he's the head coach, and it's like, I suppose more often than not, it's the guy on the top that ends up paying for it, and maybe that's why that he should go.
Well, is it a problem as well that he's really, though we say they're the 8th best ranked defense this year, I've not got all the numbers out here to say what their ranking has been for the last 5 years, but before Fangio, Denver had a good defense. Yeah. Denver have always had have had a good defense for a very long time since they won that Super Bowl. They've had a really good defense for a very long time. Is it the fact that actually he's just not moved the needle at all, really? Yeah. Like, they were a good defense anyway. He's not then made the defense number 1 ranked defense in the league. They've not gone and got that many pieces, really. The drafting of Patrick Surtain's fantastic. He's really a Pro Bowl snub this year. He's been fantastic for them. But they've had a decent secondary for a long time. They've always had a decent front seven. Is it just the fact that he's not moving the needle? He's moving the needle maybe defensively a little bit, but we expect Denver to have a good defense every year. And then offensively, they've not moved the needle at all, considering they've drafted Jerry Jeudy, they've drafted Noah Fant in the recent years, they've drafted offensive linemen, they've drafted numerous quarterbacks. I mean, under Fangio, they've had a couple of quarterbacks anyway. So is it again a factor of he's just not if there was some progression somewhere, we'd maybe be a bit more favourable with him.
Well, he's done 3 seasons. He's done 7-9, 5-11, and now he's 7-8. So nothing's really changed, to be honest. I mean, obviously there's a couple more games to go, but nothing's really changed that much. I think I just feel if you're going to bring in a big name quarterback, which is what they were rumoured to do last year, that you feel like they have to do this year if they want to do anything, then if you want to do that, I feel like you're going to want someone who's new, exciting, going to do something rather than the guy you've had for 3 seasons that's not changed anything.
Right, we'll move on to Andrew. Who are you bringing to the table for us to get the job?
Well, I was very similar to Adam. I could quite easily come out here and start slamming Pete Carroll again, but obviously I did that on the show. We did a full show about Matt Nagy and Pete Carroll. So looking down the list, I think the Jets might have whiffed on Salah, but he's not the guy. I think he deserves another year. So looking at other teams, I never thought I'd be saying this at the start of the season, but I'm not sold on Matt Rule. Wow. I know it's only his 2nd year, but they finished last season 5-11. In his first season, there was glimpses of them looking like that this could be moving forward. We spoke really highly of them in the offseason. Oh, yeah. I thought he drafted really well, whether it was him or, Tepper or whoever's doing the drafting, it was a good draft. They didn't have Christian McCaffrey last year, and we all thought, once the pieces are right, this is going to work. But for me, being the head coach isn't just about drafting the players and having glimpses. It's about how you conduct on your play management, your backroom staff, everything like that. And I just feel like they haven't gone anywhere. It's a bit of a quarterback carousel. They can't decide on whether it's, Darnold, Walker or Cam Newton. And he went out and sacked Joe Brady. I think he was similar to like the Giants. I think he was worried about his own position. The offense was looking pretty uninspiring and unimpressive. So he sacked his offensive coordinator, who I said to Freddie on text message, I think he was quite, he wasn't doing an overly bad job with what was given. And where we see him find another job because, he's kind of been stabbed in the back, I think, a little bit. Like I said, they're currently 5-10. There's chances of them losing the last 2 games. So if anything, you could say they've gone backwards. They haven't lost an awful lot of pieces. That their team they haven't been one of those teams ravaged with injuries. So yeah, they're in a weak NFC South. The very winnable games in their division, and they're bottom of it. I'm not sure is the guy whether they should be aggressive and move on because they have got a good team.
Do you think that this is sort of highlighted more with the Carolina Panthers because we've said about the Denver having a strength of roster and things like that, and we know there's a lot of teams out there that have a lot of names wrote on the paper, but the Panthers especially have a young, good roster. Like this roster is going to be around if they can move their money in the right way. They're going to have that for a very long time. There's some of them guys there like Brian Burns. Well, there's a lot of other people on that defense, especially that are young. Jeremy Chin. Is it the fact that it's a young roster? It's a team that needs to develop, and we're just not seeing that develop. We said last year there could be a team that looks like they're going to develop. Maybe it's going to be too early because they're still quite young. They did exactly that. We said it, all three of us on the podcast, especially. This is the next year for them to step up. They've got the younger guys getting older. They've got that experience in them now. They're sort of working out their positions as well. Jeremy Chin playing that sort of safety linebacker hybrid role. They had their injuries last year. They have had a couple of injuries this year. McCaffrey has been a little bit in and out, but they drafted Chuba Hubbard to cover that sort of thing. They got rid of Mike Davis admittedly, but brought in him. They brought in. They've got brought in Tommy Tremble as a tight end, who's a really good tight end. They started to try and patchwork them things out. And we've not seen that progression again.
Yeah, I've probably seen less from them this year than I did last year, which is why I'm questioning whether he's the right guy. And the thing that really worries me is when you watch them, is the game management and what he's calling. Since Brady's gone and he's fired him, and he's taken control himself a little bit. I've seen them. When they're in the red zone, they've driven down the field with Cam Newton. They get to the red zone, they take him off. They bring on PJ Walker. I mean, I've questioned in that because Cam Newton's a dual threat. He could be going either way. And I'm just going like, what are you doing? And then the next drive, PJ Walker's starting, Cam Newton's coming in for a couple of plays. It's like there doesn't seem to be any consistency in what is this team, what's it doing, and where's it going? Whereas last year we kind of saw and went, hey, we could be excited about them. And it's little things like that I'm going, are we seeing the inexperience of him and the college side of his mentality coming out, and it not being as, you do that in a college game, wouldn't you? You'd swap your players around, you'd try some new things. And that just doesn't work in the NFL. Is he being caught out now with how good he was at college and it not transpiring through to the NFL?
So do you think he's got too many options? Like he doesn't know. It's almost like there's too many quarterbacks there that he can use. There's too many, because they have got good players. There are some really good players on that offense, and
there's almost too many styles of play, isn't there?
Yeah.
You have Sam Darnold, who's mildly athletic but good arm. You have Cam Newton, who's not great arm, but very athletic and still mobile. PJ Walker, who's mobile, not great arm. McCaffrey, who can run like a bull rusher, but can also do the pass catching. You've got really capable wide receivers on the outside. What's your identity? Are you run first? You pass first? Which quarterback are you using? Is that one of them things as well?
Yeah, I do think they don't have an identity at the moment. It's one of their biggest problems. But you'd think after a full season and then going into the off season, you'd have it very clear in your head what you are and how to move forward in the following season. And we've seen it regress rather than move forward. When we talked about the Lions and how the Lions have done this season, they're 2-12-1. When you see Dan Campbell and you see him and what he's doing and what he's playing, you kind of go, oh, I get that. It's not exactly transpiring and then moving forward, but you kind of get what he's going on about, finding his identity, going, I can buy into that, despite them being one of the worst teams in the NFL this season.
And you look at the team they play, the team they put on the field.
Yeah, and they're competitive and they're in games and you can see what they're doing. But the Panthers, for me, I just don't get it. I feel like they should be, they've got Falcons and Saints in their division who, again, they won't know identity. You'd argue they should be above them or competing with them, and they're not. They're behind them. And they're two teams that are, you could say, are in rebuild, whereas Panthers have started their rebuild and still behind them.
Do you think that, because obviously he's done one, like you say, he's done 1 year and then he's done this year. Now, I know, I've said for Vic Fangio 3 years is enough. I mean, do you feel that it's the right thing to actually get rid of him after 2 years, or do you feel like you're just going to be like jumping into the fire with a new one and then you've got to do a new rebuild and go through it all again? Or are you just going to be in the same position that Denver are in, and that you feel like they need a new start because it's just not like, basically, is this time next year, is it going to be the same conversation with him?
Yeah, well, they're not restart and get a new quarterback and all that. They've got the pieces. Like I said, they started the rebuild last year. They've got the pieces. They've had the good draft. They've got the players. I think they might just need a more experienced head coach to guide these youngsters and develop them into an NFL franchise team, as opposed to a new college, coach that kind of is young with them and learning with them. I'm not sure. I think I'd rather go for a veteran that can guide them rather than them building together. Because he's got a 10-year contract, hasn't he? So, likelihood is they probably won't move on him and they might stick with him. But for me, I just feel like it needs a veteran to guide these youngsters and put his stamp of authority on it. And Tepper's quite aggressive as well with he's I would say he's the type of person that probably would go, I need to change this, who is out there. So I think that's it for me. I don't think Matt Rule is horrendous. I just don't think the Panthers is the team that for him to guide, really.
Do you think that he's not been helped by the fact that maybe Sam Darnold wasn't his choice to go for? Because he may say that, that was, that's our guy and everything like that. But really, he has a little say in it. He doesn't have a massive say in it. It is more the back office and people like that. But do you think that in his mind, having Sam Darnold, we've got a serviceable quarterback here, but maybe he was aiming for a little bit more? Maybe he was thinking we could get a bit more here. Maybe he wanted to go for someone in the draft rather, or do you think maybe there is some sort of back house stuff where they're not quite on the same synergy?
Well, it was his team when they drafted Sam Darnold. It wasn't as if he inherited him or he came into an organization that was moving forward. He would have definitely, surely, if you've got a 1-year head coach, you're not overruling him and saying we're bringing in a guy you don't want. He's got to be in that conversation of who they're bringing in and who he's comfortable with. Whether it was the guy that he had at the top of his list or not, he's got to have been on Matt Rule's list. Otherwise, you are just thrown into the fire, aren't you? Really, I'd argue that he was in the conversation. He said he was happy with that choice.
Yeah, but he's not going to come out and say he wasn't.
He could well, to be fair.
This is the one thing with Carolina is that David Tepper, like you said, he is aggressive. He does want to get them winning. It's like he's come out multiple times and said that he wants I want a top quality franchise quarterback. I want this, I want that, and I want it now, kind of thing. You do sort of start questioning maybe certain things like, was Sam Darnold a choice of Matt Rule? Did he want Cam Newton? I know they needed someone, but did he want Newton to come back? Because, all the photos are of Tepper and got his arm around Cam Newton and all that. And it's like, you do sort of wonder if there is a little bit almost overruling him a little bit. But yeah, I kind of agree in a way. He hasn't really improved anything much. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? It's only 2 years. That's the thing. You sort of think to yourself, how long should you give someone?
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I'm not sure what happens if they have another year, and it doesn't work. You've give the Saints and the Falcons a chance to catch you up in that division. Then I don't know where to go with it. I'm just not buying into him at the moment.
Okay, so it looks like it's my turn, and unfortunately, compared to you guys, I am very underprepared for this episode. Unfortunately, I've had a family visit today, but I looked down the line, and it is so hard because there is so much justification you can give for a lot of these teams. Detroit Lions, like I said, Dan Campbell, I can really buy into that. The team he has is actually got no stars on it, so can you blame him for not having any playmakers, any stars on it? The Giants, Joe Judge has not a Daniel Jones or a full-strength team the whole year, which has really hindered him. Carolina, obviously, we've talked about them. The Jags, got rid of Meyer. Texans have just got sort of a temporary coach. We knew that wasn't going to be the case because they've not really got many stars. Robert Saleh, again, hasn't had his quarterback the full year, has lost a lot of stars as well. Denver, we've got, you look at the people like the Browns at 7-8. Is Kevin Stefanski on the chopping block? I don't really think you can say that because he's completely changed the culture there in Cleveland. Mike Tomlin, the Steelers, 7-7-1, losing a lot of divisional games. You could argue it, but for me, I think it's more a bit deeper than that. I think it's more quarterback play, and also our offensive coordinator seems to not know what's going on. When I look at it, Sean Payton, 7-8, he's not going to go anywhere. The Saints love him. Outside of Pete Carroll and Matt Nagy again, but we said we weren't going to be the topic because we have all had a go in this podcast and on separate podcasts as well, and they are both coaches that we're not so fond of, all three of us. The only one I'm looking at really pains me to say because I really like the guy, but Ron Rivera in Washington, it's just not working. I'm not sure about it.
You can't do that.
I know. I know. I feel awful saying it.
He survived cancer. How dare you?
Jeez, if we're going to bring all that stuff into it, bloody hell. God, I nearly like F-bomb then as well.
I'm going to make you feel guilty through this.
I do and don't, because I actually really, really like Ron Rivera. But like you said a little bit with Matt Rule and the quarterback thing, who decided with him that it was a good idea that Fitzpatrick or Taylor Heineke were going to be the future of this team? We're going to push you to the next level. They were so prosperous. Last year, their defense was so good. And I know they've had their injuries later on in the season, may I add. Later on in the season, they've had these injuries. They were so bad at that first 6 games. The defense was awful. We said it on this podcast and on multiple podcasts. Everyone went, where's this Washington defense gone? Where's this defense that was so good last year? Where's it gone? They've got all the same players. They've got all the same team. Why is it not progressing forward? They had Fitzpatrick. He got injured. So they got Taylor Heineke. We knew that was going to be whatever. We knew that. We knew when Ryan Fitzpatrick came in, he's going to win them 5 games. Him alone could probably win them 5 to 4 games. That's what he did in Miami. It's going to be then their really good defense who can get them the 8 games or the 10 games maybe, but they can get one. But it's just not happened. The defense has been really poor. Yeah, I've not got any stats in front of me, unfortunately. But they've not done well in division. They've squeaked some games, I admit. I think Taylor Heineke he looks real good at times. Like, he looks really good. But there's quarterbacks out there that do look really good at times, but they can be just so bad at the same time. It was never going to be the right plan in the first place. You got in Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was like, well, we'll have a really great defense and then the offense will be serviceable. They need a bit more at quarterback. They've got a pretty decent O-line as well. You've got Curtis. I know Curtis Samuel has not played loads. I admit. I know their tight end, whose name's completely escaping me, not C.J. Uzomah because he's at the Bengals. Thomas, yes, Logan Thomas. He's been really in and out all year, I admit. But you've got people. You've got Terry McLaurin. He's a top 10 wide receiver in the league. You've got Antonio Gibson, who's just has not been the same running back this year. I don't think either. I don't think he's been used well enough. The defense was the biggest surprise to everyone within the NFL UK community in the first 5 weeks. I think everyone, that was the biggest surprise going on. Where is this gone? Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne. You only improved it in the offseason. I can't even remember who they drafted in the first round in the end. Jamin Davis, who's been fairly decent. They just haven't taken that next step up, which I thought they would. And they looked good. They've had this dip. Is it going to be this thing with Ron Rivera, which happened in Carolina? It became this swing team. They were either really great or they were just all right. They were just one of them teams which they still are now, really. The Panthers, they've not really moved on from when Ron Rivera was there into Matt Rule. They've not become the elite again. I just don't think it's working. Again, he's been there 2 years. He's been ill. I admit, I get that. Maybe giving him another year. I already feel guilty enough as it is because I do really, really like him as well. I like how he's on camera, and I've really enjoyed him when he was on like Hard Knocks or whatever it was, or All or Nothing. I just don't think it's working. I think you've got to take them steps up. You've got to take them steps up year on year. Their problem last year was not their defense. It was their offense and it was their quarterback. They didn't solve it in the offseason. They went for serviceable, but we'll carry it on our defense. The defense didn't carry it. So there was no plan B after that because our offense was only ever going to be serviceable in the first place. So I just don't like the channel it went down this year. The big people didn't step up, I admit, on their team, but I don't think it's been helped by the coaching.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, despite the fact you're being horrifically unfair to the poor man. Don't talk back. You just stay quiet. Yeah, I get your point. They've had a lot of injuries, and in a funny way, I feel like all three of the head coaches that we've come up with, their back offices have not helped them in the quarterback position. And that's a big problem that all three teams have had. I don't know. I feel like they're not as set as what the other two are. That they don't. I know they've got Terry McLaurin, but to be honest, they've got Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson, and Curtis Samuel is okay. He showed flashes for Carolina, but then he had seasons when he didn't really do a lot. So that's a bit difficult on there. I don't think anyone really thought that Fitzpatrick was going to be the guy who was going to take them to the NFC East title, did they? Really? I mean, it's like he's very much in and out all the time. So that's another one. When it comes to the defense, I think they have shown that they've regressed. Definitely, I think they've lost a couple of experienced guys. I mean, they lost Ryan Kerrigan. That's a massive loss, I felt. I was really surprised that they didn't re-sign him, because although he couldn't do as much as what he'd done previously, he'd been there for so long, and I feel like someone like that is a big person to lose in the dressing room, and you do just wonder whether if that's what's caused the defense to regress a little bit. But yeah, I think you kind of almost have to give him another year, partly because I think that they actually do have. He showed last year what he can do with that team when it was real bare bones. I just feel like if they invest a little bit, because that's the thing, I feel like they invested a little bit, but not enough to really make a difference. It was kind of like token investment rather than anything else. And I think that they need to give him a chance, and then like a proper chance. But unfortunately, you're dealing with an owner there that it's a little bit, all over the place. So who knows?
I think that's what the key is about all three teams we've talked about, is they're all meant to have really good defenses with sort of serviceable offenses with some key stars on the wide receiving. And again, they've all got the quarterback.
I feel that Carolina and Denver have got better offenses.
Oh yeah, I agree. But what I'm saying is the plan at the start of the season was let's start Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
that wasn't a good plan to anyone. No one thought that was. No one went, oh, well, they're going to win the NFC East now. I think people did think that, which I thought they would be in the competition for it, because I thought, well, if that defense can step up like they did and the offense is serviceable and can be good. And like I said, Fitzpatrick can win you 4 or 5 games. He can definitely, he's done it in Miami. He's done it for Alex Creek, can win you 4 or 5 games, in the clutch. But that's about it. Well, if he's getting that 4 games and the defense can win you 6 games, well, you've got 10 wins. The defense can maybe get you maybe 11 wins if you eke out some of them division wins. With the Giants maybe being weaker, with the Cowboys, we still didn't know what they were going to be this year, because it felt like they had regressed, but they've come out and done, but been really fantastic. The Eagles, we really didn't know what they were going to be this year as well. I feel like Washington had every opportunity really to take that bridge up, and they just haven't on this defense. I do agree. I think Rivera should be given 1 more year. I just think in that context of the progressions you're meant to make with a team, they've regressed really heavily. And I know they've now had later in Chase Young being injured, stuff like that. That has happened later on in the season. That wasn't week 2. That was week 7 or 8. I think that happened. And Taylor Heineke being the starter for the most of the year is also, Fitzpatrick's been injured and everything like that. That's completely understandable as well. But it's just the regression that I've seen, which I think hurts his tenure really at this point.
I think that Adams really hit the nail on the head with the defense of saying, I think we spoke about it when we were talking about their struggles. There has been no veterans or experienced players on that defense. And I thought it was the main issue of why that defense hadn't showed up at the start of the season as much as it did at the back end of the season, because it's all year 1 and year 2 players. and they didn't have a leader. You can say Chase Young is a leader, but he's still a kid. It didn't have that like veteran leader to put his arm around Chase Young and say, you know, don't worry, mate, we can do this, we can sort it. He was kind of told, right, you're in your second year, you're the leader, crack on with all the other kids. And I think that's slightly unfair because halfway through the season, we started to see it click, and through November, their defenses looked very, very good. You know, and they started to win some games again. It's only since COVID's hit that they've kind of dropped off the bandwagon. So I think Ron Rivera is the perfect person to move that defense forward. And he's had 2 years with that defense now. And we need to know what his quarterback plan and his offense plan is. I don't think you can like just go, you know, we're halfway through it's got to have been what, a 5-year plan, 4-year plan. And you can see where it's going and you can see it building. I don't think you can give up on this plan just yet. They're not far off of what they were last year. They didn't win that many last year. So they're not far off that. And they did struggle at the start with their defense. So I think you can't give up on this plan halfway through. You need to give them a chance to actually show what you can do on the offense, because we know the defense is going to grow stronger. We know that with the youngsters they're going to get better year on year out. So we should see that develop. We got to give him a chance, I think, to show us what he can do once it's his offense.
I think the key word actually for all three of our teams is identity. They're all lacking identity, aren't they? They all don't know what they are just yet.
Well, I think Washington has got an identity. I think they are a defensive. They're going to be a defensive beast, and they're going to win games like that. Yes, I agree that they haven't got an identity on the offense, but they've got some really nice pieces to start off as a plan. But yeah.
Well, maybe that's the fact for all of our teams is we're just looking a little bit too soon into it. But there certainly is going to be some coaches going. Matt Nagy's one of them.
Oh no,
and that's the only one.
For another year, just for a laugh.
That's the only one I'm very confident will go. That's actually the only one I think will actually go. Because well, David Culley might, because it's just David Culley, and he's just sort of sitting there anyway, just to like smooth it over in a way. Obviously, there'll be new coach at Jags because they've got obviously an interim head coach. Joe
Judge would be a good one, because if Dave Gettleman goes, they might want a complete start, or he might have slipped in.
Haven't they already come out and said that?
Said he'll keep him.
I mean, they have said that, but it's not official yet until he's out the door.
Yeah. If Bill Belichick came on the market, you would go, well, that's changed our plan. We're just going to get rid of him and get him in.
I think they'll keep him because I think they'll blame it all on
everything that was around him.
Yeah, that's what I think they'll do.
I don't think Joe Brady's going to wait for a job. I really don't think we were talking about it over text, me and Andrew, but in fact, when you said his name, and I was thinking about coordinators and stuff, it reminded me there was a 4th down in the Sears game against the Chiefs, and they did a swing pass to Najee, and he like lost 6 yards. It was an awful play. Like it was, and I tweeted straight away. I was, why didn't they just run up the gut? You're 4th and 4 or 4th and 3. Najee Harris, run up the gut, hard it. Tried to do a swing pass. Every safety, every corner knew where it was going, because you could see the read as soon as it happened. And I thought, well, Matt Canada, our offensive coordinator, is not going to be there probably next year. A lot of Steelers fans are calling for his head anyway. And then when he said Joe Brady, I was thinking, oh yeah, Joe Brady at the Steelers. Now that could be some dynamite over there, especially if we get a new quarterback in. But that conversation is definitely for another day, a new quarterback in Pittsburgh. So we'll table that discussion for another time. Thank you guys for joining me once again. I hope you guys, like I said, have a fantastic Christmas, and we all wish you a happy new year as well as we draw ever closer to 2022. Can we believe it? 2022. The time goes so fast. Franchise Tag Podcast feels like it only started yesterday, and yet we're going into 2022 when we started in 2019, 2018. I think it was 2018 that we started, maybe. I can't remember. I have to look it up. The historians of the Franchise Tag Podcast could look it up for later on. But again, Adam, Andrew, thank you for joining me. We'll be back to you again next week. Have a great new year. We'll see you all very soon.